1956, classified as a third felony offender. Offense, aggravated burglary, 2 counts, aggravated burglary. Sentencing date, May 21st, 1984, revoked on February 4th, 2000, and August 21st, 2000. Sentenced to a total of 44 years, 8 months, 24 days. Parole date, August 1st, 2021. Good time, April 18, 2036. Full term, January 1st, 2044. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson.
Good morning, Mr. Hawkins. How are you this morning?
Doing all right.
Okay. My name is Bonnie Jackson. Your case has been assigned to me, so I'll be leading the questioning this morning. How old are you, Mr. Hawkins?
65.
Okay. How long have you been incarcerated on these charges?
21 and a half years.
Okay. So you were about 44 when the last crimes occurred?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Ms. Hawkins, I do want to talk to you about your charges, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Although you pled guilty or were found guilty of burglaries, all of your crimes involve some sort of sexual assault. In one, there was an actual rape, and in others, there were attempts to commit rapes. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so, do you consider yourself a sex offender?
Yes, ma'am, but I ain't had to though.
What does that mean?
That I really ain't want to do nothing to nobody.
But yet you did. On every occasion where you had a burglary, you ended up raping a woman or attempting to rape a woman. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And going back to 1974, you were arrested for you had 3 counts of aggravated burglary, 2 counts of simple rape. I don't know exactly what you ended up pleading guilty to, but you received a 15-year sentence back in 1974. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you got out in 1983, that very same year, you were arrested for the aggravated burglaries that were actually rapes and sexual offenses. So the same year you got out of jail from serving time for rape, you went right back to sexually assaulting women. Can you explain that to us?
Well, I was a juvenile at the time.
So what?
First time I ain't never had no.
Okay, I'm not talking about in 1974. I'm talking about in 1983, after you had served your 15-year sentence.
Well, I just want to do something. I ain't really had no sex in my whole life.
What?
I really have no sex in my whole life.
You never had any what your whole life?
Sex. I know what sex was about.
Well, Mr. Hawkins, you raped multiple women. What do you mean you didn't know what sex was about?
I didn't know because I really didn't know about it when it happened. It just happened because I was on alcohol and stuff back then.
So, Mr. Hawkins, I assume that because your charges weren't sex crimes, they didn't put you in any kind of sex offender treatment since you've been in jail. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think you need sex offender treatment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, you and I are on the same page. I agree with that statement. what's your current job at the prison?
I work in the kitchen,
And how long have you had the job in the kitchen?
about 6 years, 6.5 years.
Okay. When's the last time you had a write-up?
2016.
And what was that for?
They had wrote us up for contraband that our clothes and our shoes that they wrote us up for.
Okay, what was the contraband?
Our jeans and our shoes, tennis shoes. They're the colors that they said we couldn't have.
All right. Well, how did you get them?
We had came from another prison with them. They let
Okay.
them in. That's when they was,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's when they was coming around checking everybody's clothes and shoes, and they was taking our clothes and stuff.
Ms. Jackson, at the time, we had a new warden here at the prison, and he went around and confiscated anything that wasn't on their department regulation, and he wrote a bunch of offenders up, so.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that insight. What kind of classes have you taken, Mr. Hawkins?
Angel Mariners, living balancing, all of them that took off.
Okay,
Took all of them there.
all right. But you've not had any kind of sex offender treatment, is that correct?
No matter.
Okay. And what if you were to get out? I'm not saying you will, but if you were to get out, what's your plan? Where would you live? What would you do for a living? You're 65 years old. So tell me what your plan would be.
Well, I do carpenter work, fix on cars, stuff like that. Working in stores and stuff, I fixed all that kind of stuff there.
Okay, where would you live?
My sister in Greensboro lives out,
Okay,
Celestine John.
okay. Well, you know, you've got opposition from the victims in your cases. They're all opposed to your being released early. Can you understand why?
Well, I don't mind being released early because they think I might come back, but I'm not gonna never go back. I left that alone. It's all over and I got a new life going now. I'm up in age now.
Well, yeah, that's true, but you can, well, let me ask you this. How do you think your actions affected their lives? We've been talking about your life, but how do you think being raped or having someone try to rape you would affect their life?
Well, they'll be the same. I mean, in their position, in my position, I'd be acting the same way. And in the time it happened like that, I'll be glad to see somebody. I apologize what happened. I apologize to them, but they ain't give me time to apologize because I.
Do you think an apology to somebody who's been raped?
But I never go back to that no more. I really don't really know. I really know, but I'm not gonna go back to that no more in life.
Okay, well, the thing that concerns me is you served 15 years on a rape from 1974 to 1983. And that same year, you broke into 3 women's houses and you raped one and attempted to assault the other 2. So I can't be confident that you won't go back to that since you've not had any kind of sex offender treatment. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am, but I can't go back to that no more. I got a life. I can't go back to no more. I'm up in age, and I can't do that no more in life. That affect my sister, really affect me and my sister, because she's been on my side since I've been locked up. She's the only one. I love my parents, love my mom, my dad, sister, and brother while I was locked up. My mom died because I was in prison.
Okay.
Worry about me. So she was the next, my brother got killed on this joke cell. And she been on my side since I've been locked up. And they gave me a lot of time for the charge that I did, or something like they said I did. Most I didn't do. Cause my brother had told me that who died, Melvin. So when I got locked back up, same thing would happen in the same neighborhood and around that area, and they was giving it to me.
Well, Mr. Hawkins, on one case, you actually went to trial, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were found guilty.
Yeah, but I ain't know they had found me guilty.
You were at the trial, Mr. Hawkins.
I had pleaded guilty to. I had pleaded guilty to the charges. All the charges I've been on, I plead guilty to them. All three of them, I plead guilty.
Well, that when you plead guilty, that means you admit that you did the crime.
Yes, ma'am. So by being I did that, I ain't had to worry. I ain't had nothing to worry about it. But it did worry affect me while I locked up. I still thinking about what happened to all the victims that I did. Or they say I did, and I did. And I still hurt me.
Okay, Mr. Hawkins, you keep saying they say you did. Either you did it or you didn't.
I did it. But I'm
Okay,
saying I'm not worried. I'm worried about it. While being in prison, I'll be still affecting me and them, and I still be crying about the stuff I had to go back on the year that I started with it. Come back on me, and I worry about them too all the time. Every time, baby. But if they please, if they accept my apology, what happened is it happened. I can't go back to it and change that.
Okay. Warden, is there anything you can add on Mr. Hawkins?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Even though his charges aren't sex offenses, they all involved rape or sexual assault. Is it possible for him to get into sex offender treatment programs at your facility?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins, for talking with us.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Do we have any other questions? Don't see any. At this time, Mr. Hawkins,
Yes,
you can
ma'am.
make your final statement, whatever you want to tell us before we render our decision.
Miss Pearl, I apologize for interrupting.
That's okay.
Miss Celestine Jones, who's on
Okay,
the
thank
phone,
you.
would like
Okay,
to
go
speak.
ahead. Excuse me, thank you. Ms. Jones,
Yes, ma'am.
you may speak now. Tell us what you want us to know.
Oh, good morning to everyone that's on the board. I've gotten enlightened about some things that I didn't know that happened, but I do know that he has spent a long term in prison, and I sympathize with the victims. And I do think that he needs to participate in some type of program. I always thought that when they let him out before, he needs to participate because he needs mentally something's wrong, and he needs professional help. He really does, because I'm a woman myself, and I sympathize with those victims. But he needs to have some type of help, some type of program, something to monitor him, because he grew up doing these things all his life. Something's wrong when you just let them back out in society without preparing them for life outside. You know, I want my brother to get out, but I want him to get help also, and he needs help.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for participating in the process. I know he appreciates having you on his side. So is the panel ready to vote?
You want to let him make a statement?
Oh, that's right. Excuse me. You're right. I'm back to you, Mr. Hawkins. Anything you want to tell us before we vote?
Well, I was taking the classes down at Allen Correction Center, the sex offensive classes. I was taking them down there. All the programs that they had down here in AA, all them programs I was taking down there. The class that they had down there, we had to sign up for them. That's the one I was taking all them classes there. So I was trying to get rehabilitate myself for doing all that, help myself, rehabilitate on myself for being back out in society. On the sex offense classes and all that there, we had all that down there. And I was trying to do all that down there. So I got some of the certificates for it down in the dome at the time.
All right, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Ms.
All right.
Jackson.
Mr. Hawkins, I normally at your age and the length of your incarceration, I would generally feel comfortable letting someone out. Your risk assessment is low, but you weren't assessed as a sex offender because your charges didn't indicate that there were sex offenses involved. But every one of your convictions have involved some sort of sexual assault. And I think that you need to complete all phases of sex offender treatment. I don't know if you've done any. I asked you about it. You said you hadn't had any, but then you talked about Alan. But I don't know whether you've had any or not, but I do believe you need to complete all 3 phases of the sex offender treatment program before I would feel comfortable considering you for release. And so my vote today would be to deny you with a strong recommendation that you be placed in sex offender treatment and that you complete all phases of that treatment. So get with the warden, get with the staff, and get enrolled in those classes. And when you're eligible to reapply, I would encourage you to reapply after you've completed the sex offender programs.
Thank you. Mr. Marabella?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My vote will be the same as Ms. Jackson's for the same reasons with the same recommendations.
See, Mr. Hawkins, got your arms folded there. You have 2 votes at this time to deny. I concur with my colleagues to deny for the reasons stated. And also you have poor supervision history and you have law enforcement opposition. So your parole has been denied.
All right.
Whoa. When you think you've seen it all, oh my gosh. You know where my rage is reserved for in this case? It's actually reserved for the ADA. It's reserved for, maybe it's also the judge to accept this. Realize that he was locked up for assaulting women in a sexual nature against their will, yet for some reason it's not on his rap sheet. They gave him burglary charges. Then he gets out after serving, I believe it was a 15-year sentence. He gets out and immediately gets locked back up again for this same crime. He's a serial offender. He is probably as dangerous as it gets. And they still don't put it on his record. How is that possible? Why? There is no excuse. There is no way that his public taxpayer dollar appointed attorney talked his way into somehow getting the DA to drop those charges for a deal. And the DA is like, yeah, that's a great idea. Or I feel so pressured. And all the DA had to do was say, absolutely not. At least the second time, right? Absolutely not. These charges are going on his record. But they don't. They didn't. And the only way, and Claire, thank you for sharing this hearing. Claire put in the email, a lazy DA. And I just think I have to agree. It can only be laziness. There's no other explanation. It's pure laziness. How fast can I get this docket off of my desk, this folder off of my desk? I wanted to know what sex felt like. Miss Jackson could not believe her ears. She has been a judge. She's been in the system all of her life, multiple lifetimes worth. And she had to ask 3 times because she thought that her hearing was failing her. She said, "What did you say?" I wanted to know what sex felt like. And the response wasn't even like how ridiculous of a statement that is. It was more of the logical, which is, but you knew what it felt like. You were locked up for doing the same thing. And he's like, well, I wasn't sober then. I wanted to know what it was like sober. Which opens up a whole nother pack, in itself. And it's just like, I mean, the first thing I'm like, oh man, I mean, you don't even know what to say. You're just lost. Now, I wish I jumped on this before Richard could do any deep dive because I woke up early and I said, I want to do this, but I did Google his name. You don't see anything, and you won't. These cases took place a long time ago, and these are the kind of cases the DA just wanted to get rid of, so no one's going to find it, right? And I mean, remember, these are just the times that he was caught. Think about how many times he had done it, and all these years in prison, he has no insight. He has none whatsoever. Now, if you want to look at any bright side of this hearing, I think was his sister. His sister, and if you've seen enough of these hearings, it's not a given that the supporters will do something like this. Her as a supporter, she said, "Wow, I heard things I didn't know, and he needs help." I mean, and she's probably in fear for herself in some ways. And she's like, he needs programs. He needs help. Even suggesting he needs help when he gets out. And like, you cannot give me one good reason, one reason that makes sense as to why the DA would just let him plea to these charges. There's none. And really the result of it is to go through a full prison term, get out, not be classified as a danger, so that he can then get out and do the exact same offense again, to not get any treatment and programs, which, I mean, I think that's kind of a joke anyways, but maybe it does help certain people. It seems that like he has, it could be that he's on the lower end of the IQ level, and maybe just basic programs can help someone in that place. I don't know. I have no idea, right? But yeah, pure laziness, not caring about your constituency, kicking the ball down the road, and for what? Just because it would get a file off his desk a little faster, and he was too lazy to just tell a public defender no. Who knows how these deals are made? Maybe the public defender, they go out to a drink. He says, "Okay, I got these 10 deals. Just give me 10. Give me 10." And they're like, "Oh, well, let's, you got the round. I'll give you the 10. Okay, deal." I mean, who knows, right? I mean, like, really, who knows? I just don't imagine. I just, all right, I'm a broken record now. But it was something to watch Miss Jackson listen to this hearing and to hear her responses. And, you would just love to sit with that DA and say, "Okay, sir, tell me." But I just wanted to know what it would feel like. And all he has is robbery. When it first started, because I had the insight from Claire, I was like a little confused when the offenses are read off as robbery. I'm like, what? But his full-time date is, if I wrote this right, 2044. So he does have some time, and he is up there in age. They may just wait, till he's in even worse physical shape, or till he finishes his programs. We'll see. When he comes up again for parole, I'll let you know. This parole took place in, I believe, 2020. So it's been a few years. But thank you again, Claire. And with that, I'll let you go.